Hello friends, you're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. I never thought my life would shrink down to 4 aisles and a squeaky mop bucket. But after my divorce, after losing nearly everything I thought defined me, the dollar store on Maplewood Avenue became the only place that made sense anymore. I used to work in an insurance office back in Bangor. 8 years of answering phones, typing up claims, and pretending I wasn't quietly dying inside. When my husband Brian walked out, he left more than just an empty closet. He left a hole in my routine. The silence of that apartment was unbearable. I needed something to fill it, something steady, something that didn't ask too much from me. So when I saw a "now hiring night clerk" sign in the window of the Maplewood dollar store, I took it. I told myself it'd be temporary, just until I figured out my next move. That was 10 months ago. Now my nights followed a rhythm as predictable as breathing. At 11 p.m., I'd restock the cleaning aisle and refill the gum racks near the registers. By midnight, I'd brew a fresh pot of store-brand coffee that no one ever finished. The hum of the coolers and the flicker of the fluorescent lights were like old companions. The smell of disinfectant clung to everything. Still, I liked it. There was peace in routine. Most nights, it was just me and the quiet. The store sat at the edge of Maplewood, a forgotten patch of asphalt and flickering streetlights. The parking lot was empty by midnight, save for the occasional car cutting through on its way to the interstate. It was a Thursday night when things first started to feel off. I remember because I had just finished restocking the seasonal aisle, cheap Halloween masks, plastic pumpkins, glow sticks, when the door chimed. A man stepped inside. He wasn't tall, maybe 5'6", with neatly combed gray hair and a clean-shaven face. His clothes were tidy, pressed even, tan slacks, pale blue button-down, brown loafers. He held a single dollar bill between his fingers like it meant something. "Evening," I said, putting on my best customer service smile. He nodded politely. "Evening." His voice was calm, almost too calm, like someone who'd practiced the word before saying it. He wandered down the candy aisle, walking slow, studying each shelf like he was memorizing it. Finally, he brought up a roll of peppermints and a bottle of water. "Quiet night for you?" I asked, trying to make small talk as I scanned his items. He looked at me for a long moment. "Quiet can be deceiving," he said softly. I gave a nervous laugh. "Guess that's true enough." As I handed him his change, he reached for it, but instead of taking the bills, his hand wrapped around my wrist. Not hard, not painful, just firm. His grip was precise, steady, the kind of touch that felt deliberate, practiced. He leaned forward slightly. His breath smelled faintly of mint, and something else, something earthy, like damp leaves. "Be careful," he whispered. "There's a devil in the quiet places." I froze, the receipt printed out, flapping against the drawer. Then he let go, tucked his candy and water under his arm, and walked out without another word. The door chimed, the automatic lock clicked, and that was it. No car started up outside, no footsteps, just silence and the hum of the coolers. For days, I couldn't shake it. His words replayed over and over. "There's a devil in the quiet places." I told myself he was just some eccentric old man trying to be spooky, but deep down, something about his eyes stuck with me. They were steady, unblinking. The next few nights were normal enough. A couple of teenagers came in for energy drinks. An older woman bought paper towels, and the rest of the hours crawled by slow and empty. Then came Monday. It had been raining since sundown, soft streaks running down the glass. Around 12:50 a.m., I started closing up, counting tills, wiping counters, humming along to an old Fleetwood Mac song on the radio. That's when I noticed the headlights. They cut across the front windows, bright, white, deliberate, then vanished. I looked up. A white panel van had pulled into the lot, idling near the side entrance. No logos, no plates, just blank metal. My stomach tightened. Before I could even move, the passenger door opened, and a man in a black hoodie and ski mask stepped out, running toward the entrance. He shoved through the door before it could lock. "Open the register!" Now, my hands went up automatically. Okay, okay, just stay calm. I fumbled with the buttons. The drawer popped open. He grabbed the bills, his gloved hands shaking. "The safe!" he barked. "It's on a timer," I said, my voice trembling. "It won't open till morning." He cursed, spun around, and bolted out into the rain. I ran to the phone, hit the silent alarm, and called 911. By the time the Crestview police arrived, the van was gone. Officer Daniels took my statement while another checked the cameras. We huddled in the back office, the glow of the monitor lighting our faces. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. The robber's face was hidden, but as he dove into the van, the dome light flicked on for half a second, and that's when I saw him. The driver, gray hair, pale shirt collar, narrow shoulders. "That's him," I said, my voice shaking. "That's the man from Thursday." Daniels replayed it twice. "You sure?" "Positive." They ran the footage through the system. No match, no plates to trace. The van could have been from anywhere. 2 days later, Detective Lauren Mason called me in. They'd found a white panel van abandoned off an old logging trail about 20 minutes east, in a stretch of forest called Pine Hollow. When they opened the doors, they found tarps, cigarette cartons, a burner phone, and a bag of scratched tickets stolen from different stores along Route 12. And near the driver's door, muddy footprints. One of them matched the print lifted from our floor. Inside the camp, they found 3 men. 2 in their 30s, both with records in Massachusetts, and 1 older man sitting calmly at a folding table, eating from a can of beans. His name was Harold Benton, 71 years old, from Portsmouth. When they cuffed him, he didn't resist. He just looked up at Detective Mason and said, "There's a devil in the quiet places." I remember that detail because Mason called me the next day, still unsettled. "He didn't even sound angry," she told me. "He said it like he was warning us." A week later, the police expanded the search area around Pine Hollow. What they found made the news. A second, older camp, partially collapsed, hidden under brush. In the ashes of a fire pit, they found bones, animal mostly, but also melted coins, and a partially burned driver's license belonging to a clerk who'd gone missing 3 years earlier after a robbery in Vermont. Benton's 2 younger partners started talking immediately. They confessed to a string of gas station robberies across Maine and New Hampshire. But Benton? He stayed quiet, except for when he thought no one was listening. Mason told me that during one of the surveillance recordings, he could be heard whispering to himself. Strings of numbers, dates, and that same phrase again and again. "There's a devil in the quiet places." It's been 6 months now. Corporate changed the store policy, 2 clerks minimum after midnight, but the other night shift girl, Kelsey, often hides in the back on her breaks, leaving me alone at the counter. The lot outside feels emptier than ever. Sometimes around 1 a.m., when the hum of the coolers fills the silence, I catch myself looking toward the door, half expecting it to chime. And some nights when I mop near the candy aisle, I swear I can still smell that faint mix of mint and damp earth. Last week, while I was closing up, I saw a folded dollar bill lying on the counter by the register. I hadn't seen anyone come in for hours. The cameras showed nothing, just me, mopping, humming, the aisles empty. When I picked up the bill, I noticed something scrawled faintly in pencil along the edge. "The quiet is never empty." I threw it away, locked the doors, and drove home in silence. But that night, when I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. Because for the first time since that night in October, I realized what Benton had meant. He hadn't been warning me about himself. He'd been warning me about what comes after. And sometimes when the lights flicker just before closing and the air grows still, so still that even my breath feels heavy, I think I can hear something faint between the hums of the coolers. Not a voice exactly, just a whisper, low and rhythmic, repeating the same thing over and over. "There's a devil in the quiet places," Wyatt. Story 2, I was 21 the first winter I started working nights at the Dollar Haven on Ashbrook Road in Millfield, Oregon. I hadn't planned on ending up there, not after spending 2 years bouncing between community college courses and half-finished applications for forestry programs I never sent. But life doesn't exactly wait for you to figure things out. My mom was recovering from surgery that left her out of work, and my dad had walked out the summer before. Rent was late, bills stacked like a deck of bad cards, and the only thing hiring within walking distance was that green and white store wedged between a laundromat and a 24-hour diner. The Dollar Haven wasn't glamorous. The aisles always smelled faintly of bleach and cheap plastic. The floors never lost their scuffed gray shine, and the fluorescent lights hummed like insects trapped behind glass. But it was steady work, and in a small town like Millfield, that counted for a lot. I worked the overnight shifts Friday through Sunday, the graveyard crew, as our manager liked to call us. It was mostly just me, two other clerks, and our manager, Ron. Ron was one of those middle-aged guys who still wore baseball caps with the sticker on the brim. He had this habit of cracking dumb jokes to break tension, but underneath all that, he cared. He'd buy us pizza on slow nights and leave $5 bills under the register labeled snack fun. There was also Tasha, the loud, funny single mom who could juggle a cigarette, a phone, and a stack of dollar store boxes all at once. And Mateo, a quiet kid from the community college who was saving for culinary school. It wasn't a bad crew. In a weird way, we felt like a small, mismatched family. That's what makes what happened next so hard to talk about. It started on a Thursday in early February 2003. I'd swapped shifts with Mateo so I could drive my mom to a follow-up doctor's appointment in Salem. That meant I was off Thursday and would cover his Saturday shift instead. Simple. I didn't think much of it. That night, around 11:40 p.m., I was sitting in my mom's kitchen, finishing off a microwave burrito, when my phone started buzzing on the counter. The caller ID flashed RONSTORELINE. I almost didn't pick up. Ron never called me off shift unless it was urgent. "Hey, Ron," I said, balancing the phone against my shoulder. For a second, there was just static. Then his voice, low, flat, wrong. "I need you to come down here, kid." Something's happened. My chest tightened. "What do you mean something happened?" He took a long, shaky breath. "They're gone." "What?" I stood up, burrito forgotten on the table. "Who's gone?" "Tasha, Mateo, even." He stopped. I could hear him swallow. "Even the night guard. Just get here, please." The line went dead. The drive from my mom's house to the store took exactly 9 minutes, but I remember every second. The rain came down in heavy sheets, streaking across the windshield like silver cords. Streetlights turned the wet asphalt into mirrors. Every light I hit felt like a warning I was ignoring. When I turned onto Ashbrook Road, I saw the flashing red and blue first, 2 cruisers blocking the entrance to the lot, another idling near the loading dock. A uniformed officer stepped into my headlights, hand raised. I slowed, but before I could stop completely, Ron appeared behind him, waving me forward. He looked awful. His cap was missing, his hair matted from rain, his face pale like he'd been drained of color. I parked near the side door and got out. The air smelled like wet pavement and something faintly metallic. Police tape stretched across the glass entrance, fluttering in the wind. "Ron," I said, voice unsteady, "what's going on?" He stared at me for a long moment before answering. "They're gone, Noah." I hated how he said my name like that, like it hurt to form the word. "What do you mean, gone?" I asked again. He just turned toward the store and said softly, "You don't want to see this." But I followed anyway. Inside, the store looked wrong without the lights. Only the emergency exit signs glowed, painting everything in eerie green. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of gunpowder, and something I didn't want to name. A detective in a black rain jacket stood by the register, clipboard in hand. He gave me a quick once-over, then nodded at Ron. "Is this another employee?" Ron nodded, voice hoarse. "He swapped shifts with Mateo tonight." The detective looked at me for a long moment. "You should be thankful for that." My stomach turned. We moved past the register area, drawers pulled out, coins scattered like spilled marbles, and toward the stockroom. The door was cracked open. I remember the faint squeak of my wet shoes on the linoleum, the hum of the refrigerator in the break area, and then the smell hit me first. Blood. They were lying on the ground, face down, hands tucked under their chests. 3 bodies. Neat, almost orderly. Small entry wounds to the back of their heads. No struggle, no spatter, just stillness. My vision tunneled. I stumbled back into the hallway, gripping the cinder block wall, and threw up. The rain outside drowned out the sound of me gasping for air. When I finally looked up, the detective was watching me from the doorway. His expression didn't change. He'd seen this before. The questioning lasted until sunrise. They sat me in the break room, still smelling faintly of burnt coffee and cleaning fluid, and asked me the same things in circles. Who had keys? Who'd been acting strange? Who'd quit recently? I told them the truth. We didn't have enemies. No one had issues with anyone. But when the detective said a name, my stomach dropped. Ever heard of a guy named Eli Corbin? I nodded slowly. He used to manage here, before Ron. Why? The detective tapped his pen against his clipboard. He was fired last summer for skimming from the drawer. $2,000 missing. Never charged, but Ron reported it to corporate. I remembered Eli. Older than me by maybe 15 years. Always wore pressed shirts like he thought he was too good for the job. The kind of guy who smiled with his mouth, but not his eyes. When he got fired, he didn't argue. He just stood there in silence, looking at all of us one by one before saying, "You'll regret this." That had been the last time anyone saw him, until now. The news broke by morning. Triple homicide at local Dollar Haven. Former manager wanted for questioning. Eli's mugshot was everywhere. Shaved head, narrow eyes, expression like stone. They said he'd shown up just before closing, forced the crew to empty the safe, nearly $8,000 in cash, and then executed them in the back. He was gone before police arrived. His girlfriend, a woman named Carrie Dalton, was caught a week later trying to pawn off the stolen cash in Portland. She confessed to being the getaway driver, but refused to say where Eli was. She got 12 years. Eli vanished. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the faint green glow of the emergency lights, the way Tasha's shoe was just barely peeking out from under a plastic tarp. I stopped by the store after it reopened that spring. Everything looked new. Fresh paint, different tiles, brighter lights, but the layout was the same. The same aisles, same register counters, the same air that never quite felt right. 20 years passed. Millfield changed. New shopping centers, a Starbucks across from the gas station, a whole subdivision built behind the old lot. But that night never really left anyone who lived here. Every anniversary, the paper ran a small blurb, the Dollar Haven murders, still unsolved. Last December, they held a vigil for the 20th year. I almost didn't go, but something in me needed to see those faces again, even if they were only in framed photos on a folding table. It was cold and drizzling, just like that night. The pastor said a few words, and then he asked if anyone who'd worked there wanted to share something. My legs carried me forward before my brain caught up. I told them about how Mateo used to hum while stocking shelves, about how Tasha once brought her daughter in on Christmas Eve and handed out candy canes to everyone, how Ron kept our schedules fair, even when corporate pushed him to cut hours. My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. For a few minutes, I felt like they were still there. When it ended, people drifted away. I stood by the edge of the lot, staring at the rain-slicked asphalt glowing under the orange streetlights. That's when I saw him. He was standing by the edge of the old dumpster enclosure. Tall, hood up, hands buried in his jacket pockets. He turned slightly, and that's when I saw it. A small, faded tattoo of a crow inked just above his waistband. Eli had one just like it. My breath hitched. A bus rolled by, blocking my view for just a second. When it passed, he was gone. I told myself it was nothing, just some random guy. But even now, I'm not so sure. Sometimes when I'm driving home late and the roads are empty, I glance in the rearview mirror and swear I see a pair of headlights following me at the edge of sight. People think fugitives vanish into the woods, that they live like ghosts. But that's not true. Most of them blend in. They shave, change their names, find quiet jobs in quiet towns. Maybe he's bagging groceries now. Maybe he's coaching Little League. Maybe he's standing right behind me in line, buying batteries and paper towels. The FBI bulletin still lists him as armed and dangerous, presumed at large. Every time I pass a Dollar Haven, I hear Ron's voice in my head, low and cracked through the phone that night. They're gone, Noah. Story 3. I was 20 years old the first winter I worked the overnight shift at the Dollar Tree on Riverbend Avenue in Ocala, Washington. It wasn't where I thought I'd end up, not after 3 semesters of community college and a vague plan to study environmental science. But tuition money doesn't grow on pine trees, and after my dad's back injury left him on permanent disability, my mom's part-time hours at the hospital barely covered rent. We were behind on everything: electric, car insurance, even groceries some weeks. So when a friend from church, Eric, mentioned that Dollar Tree was hiring for overnight stocking, I figured it was better than nothing. $10 an hour, 5 nights a week, midnight to 8 a.m. Boring? Probably. But I could handle boring. What I couldn't handle was watching my mom sit at the kitchen table, staring at unpaid bills, pretending she wasn't crying. The store was in a rundown strip mall on the edge of town. Next to it was a shuttered laundromat and a Chinese takeout that never seemed open past 9. Across the street stood an old bowling alley with its neon sign half dead and the parking lot always empty. At night, the whole area looked hollowed out, just sodium lamps and long shadows. My first night was in early February. The air outside had that wet metallic cold that makes your lungs sting when you breathe in. Inside, the heat rattled through old vents that smelled faintly of dust and mop water. Rick, the night manager, met me at the door. Mid-40s, short, stocky, and always chewing on something: gum, sunflower seeds, or the end of a pen. He was one of those guys who talked without looking at you. "You Jared?" he said, flipping through the clipboard. "Yeah," I nodded. "All right, grab an apron and follow me. You'll be solo most nights after this week, so pay attention. It's not rocket science, just stock, clean, and don't do anything stupid." I gave a nervous laugh. "Define stupid," he smirked half a second. "Leaving the back door open for one. Had a kid do that last year. Someone slipped in and took 3 cases of soda. After that, corporate started locking the dumpsters after midnight. Just don't prop that door, got it?" "Got it." He walked me through the aisles, the chipped linoleum, the humming freezer units, the faint smell of cheap plastic and candy. The night felt longer than I expected. Rick left around 1:30 a.m. with a half wave, his breath clouding in the cold air as the glass doors slid shut behind him. And suddenly it was just me. The hum of the freezers, the squeak of the mop bucket wheels, the soft buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. At first I didn't mind it. There was something oddly peaceful about restocking shelves while the world slept. The rhythm of pulling products from boxes, slicing open cardboard with a utility knife, and facing the rows until everything looked uniform. I'd hum to myself or listen to the tiny AM radio I'd found in the break room. But around 2:30 a.m., something about the air shifted. It wasn't a sound exactly, more like the way silence deepened, the kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. I remember stopping mid-aisle, my hand resting on a row of plastic storage bins. Then came a faint, irregular click. Click. Pause. Click. It sounded like metal tapping concrete, slow, deliberate. I froze, straining to listen. It was coming from the back of the building, near the dumpster area. I told myself it was probably just the wind or a loose piece of metal on the fence. Still, I found myself walking toward the back door, holding my breath. The back room smelled like cardboard and pine sol. I flicked on the light over the exit and peered through the narrow glass window. Nothing. The alley was empty, just the glow of one buzzing lamp and the edge of the tree line. I told myself to stop being paranoid. I finished my shift without incident, drove home at dawn, and told my mom it was fine. But it didn't stay fine. 2 nights later, I was alone again around 3 a.m. when I saw headlights sweep across the front glass. A car turned into the lot, slow, deliberate, and parked on the far side near the dead laundromat. It idled there. I watched from the corner of the register counter, pretending to check receipts. The engine cut off and a figure stepped out, a man tall, wearing a hooded sweatshirt. He didn't head toward the entrance. Instead, he walked along the side of the building, slow and steady, like he was counting steps. My pulse picked up. I grabbed the store phone and dialed the non-emergency line. Norcross Police. Dispatch. Hey, this is Jared. I'm working the overnight at Dollar Tree. There's a guy outside parked on the left side of the lot, just kind of walking around. Feels weird. Can you see a plate? I glanced out again. No, sorry. Lights are out on that side. All right, we'll send someone to check it out. The cruiser arrived about 5 minutes later. Officer Keene, a guy I'd seen around town, stepped inside, gloves tucked in his belt. You called about a trespasser? Yeah, he was parked out there a minute ago. Keene peered through the glass. The lot was empty. Guess he took off. We've had a couple of prowler calls lately, mostly kids messing around. Keep the doors locked, all right? I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, thanks, officer. For a few days, it stayed quiet again. The routine lulled me back into that strange peace the night shift offers, the kind where time feels syrupy and disconnected, until Friday. It was a little past 3 when I caught movement in the reflection of the freezer glass. Headlights again. My stomach dropped. Same car, same spot. I didn't call it in this time. I just stood there, frozen, watching. The man stepped out, hood up, same deliberate walk. But this time, he didn't circle the building. He came straight toward the front doors. I could see his face now, sort of, pale, too still. He stopped just outside under the glow of the Dollar Tree sign and crouched down. When he straightened, I saw that he'd placed something on the pavement. Then he turned, walked back to his car, and drove away with the headlights off. I waited for what felt like forever before stepping out. The air outside was heavy, fog clinging low. I approached the doors slowly, the automatic sensor making them hiss open. There, sitting on the concrete where he'd crouched, was my name tag. Jared, green letters, slightly bent, with the clip broken off. I hadn't seen it in a week. Thought I'd lost it somewhere in the break room. I didn't sleep that morning. I sat in the kitchen watching the window as dawn came up, my mom shuffling in for her pills and tea. You all right, sweetheart? She asked, noticing the dark under my eyes. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. But something inside me had started to fray. That Sunday, I came in for my shift, and Rick was waiting near the office. He was reading something on his phone, his face drawn tight. Hey, he said when he saw me. You hear about that gas station thing last night? What thing? Guy across town attacked the clerk on the night shift. Didn't steal money, didn't touch the register, just took the kid's badge. Police haven't found him yet. A sick, cold weight sank into my stomach. I didn't tell Rick about the car. I just nodded and went to the back room, pretending to check inventory until my hands stopped shaking. The rest of that shift was unbearable. Every sound made me jump. The creak of shelves, the hum of the vents, the flutter of the security curtain when the heater kicked on. When I stepped out for the dumpster run around 4, I half expected to see him waiting in the shadows. He wasn't, but I could feel the weight of something watching. I quit 2 days later, told Rick the hours were too much, that I was going to help my mom more. He didn't argue, just nodded like he understood. I boxed up my apron, left my keys on the counter, and walked out without looking back. The automatic door slid shut with that soft, final hiss. That was 15 years ago. I moved away, went back to school eventually, built a normal life. But sometimes, late at night, when I drive past an empty parking lot or see a flicker of headlights behind me, I get that same cold feeling in my chest. Like someone out there is still counting the steps, still watching, still waiting for me to walk outside again. Story 4. I never planned on working nights at the Dollar Tree in Brookhaven, Pennsylvania. If you'd told me at 17 that I'd be stacking off-brand cereal boxes under buzzing fluorescent lights at 2 in the morning, I would have laughed. Back then, I had other plans. College, travel, maybe a graphic design degree like I'd always talked about. But when my dad passed in 2020 after a stroke, everything came undone faster than I could process. Mom couldn't keep up with rent on her own, and the house felt too heavy, too quiet without him. I put off school, took whatever jobs came my way, cleaning offices, unloading trucks, doing inventory for a hardware store, but nothing stuck. The Dollar Tree gig was the only one that felt steady. It wasn't glamorous, but it was consistent. The store sat on the corner of Walnut and Fairview, next to a pawn shop and a laundromat that never seemed to close. From the outside, the green sign glowed soft and sickly through the winter fog. At night, the lot was half empty, the streetlights flickering over cracked asphalt and patches of ice. Inside, it always smelled faintly like floor cleaner and plastic. The floors were scuffed and sticky in spots no matter how many times I mopped them. A buzzing hum came from the old ceiling lights that made my jaw clench after a few hours. The heater clanked like someone tapping pipes with a wrench. Still, it paid the bills. I usually worked with a guy named Derek, but he'd quit the week before. Something about his girlfriend moving out of state. And until they found a replacement, I was pulling solo shifts. By 1 a.m., the neighborhood was dead quiet. Even the street outside looked like it was holding its breath. That night, I sat in the break room, scrolling through my phone, half-eaten bag of Doritos on the table beside me. My breaks were my only real connection to the outside world these days. Most of my friends had either gone off to college or moved away. The people I talked to now were mostly online. Instagram, Reddit, the occasional Tinder chat that fizzled out after a few messages. I was mid-scroll when I saw the notification. New follower request, Maya_R. Her profile photo caught me immediately. Brown hair, green eyes, soft smirk. There was something magnetic about it. She looked around my age, early 20s. Not overdone, just real. I hesitated for a second. I'd been catfished before. A girl who turned out to be using someone else's photos, another who turned out to be a bot trying to sell crypto. But something about this account felt different. Her page had years of posts, real ones. Different outfits, angles, places. The kind of continuity that fake profiles never have. 3,900 followers, followed about 250 people. Her captions were casual. Long day at work. I need summer again. Nothing that screamed spam. So I followed her back. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed. Maya, hey, I saw you on Tinder. You're cute. That made sense. My Instagram was linked to my Tinder bio. I smiled, typing back, haha, thanks. You're not so bad yourself. She sent a laughing emoji, then asked what I did for work. Dollar Tree night shift, I typed. Living the dream. She replied almost instantly. Maya, lol, that sounds kinda cozy though. I love quiet places at night. Yeah, I said. Quiet's not bad. Lonely sometimes, Maya. Then maybe you need company. We talked for most of my break. Just random stuff. She said she was 22, lived a few neighborhoods over, worked part-time at a clothing store in a strip mall. She told me her mom was sick, that she stayed home most nights to help her out. I told her about my dad, about how it still didn't feel real some nights. Maya, losing a parent changes everything. I lost my dad when I was little. That hit me. For a few minutes, the conversation felt genuine. Two people talking through screens, but actually understanding something about each other. When I got up to clock back in, she posted a new selfie and told me to go like it. I did, but while scrolling through the comments, something stopped me. Dozens of men, some her age, some older, were leaving emojis and compliments. But under one of them, an older guy had commented, "Damn, how old are you anyway?" Her reply was just, two, not 22, just 2. I thought maybe it was a typo, but then I remembered she'd said she was 22, not 21. Something about that single missing digit made my skin crawl. By the next night, I told myself I was overthinking. People typo all the time. Still, when my lunch break came around again, I hesitated before opening Instagram. There she was, another message waiting. Maya, you working again tonight? Yeah, I wrote, till to Treddy. Maya, you should hang out after. That gave me pause. It's late and cold as hell, Maya. I don't mind late. I live close. Just send your address so I can see how far it is. I stared at the screen. She said she lived nearby, but that didn't mean she needed my address. Still, loneliness makes you stupid sometimes. So I sent it. A few seconds later, she replied, Maya, oh, that's not far at all. Maybe I'll come by. I typed, sure, trying to play it cool, but a small part of me hoped she wouldn't actually show up. Before logging off, I decided to ask something that had been nagging me. How old are you again, Maya? 21. Why? But she'd said 22 the night before, and then there was that weird 2 comment. I typed, "You said 22 yesterday." She didn't reply right away. When I checked back 15 minutes later, the chat said, "Message failed to send." She'd blocked me. About 10 minutes later, my DMs started blowing up. 3 new accounts followed me. At Real Maya Friend 01, at Dontignor, her, at You Made Her Cry, all with less than 20 followers. Each sent a message. At Real Maya Friend 01, "Why'd you block her?" At Don't Ignore Her, "You shouldn't have done that." At You Made Her Cry, "You'll regret it." I blocked all of them. My heart was hammering. For the rest of my shift, I kept glancing at the front door every time it chimed open. Only 3 customers came in before close, 2 teens looking for snacks and an older man buying dish soap. Still, I couldn't shake it. By the time I got home around 3 a.m., snow was falling, the streets were empty. I double-locked the door, checked every window latch, even peeked behind the shower curtain like some paranoid idiot. Everything looked normal. I stayed up watching TV just to calm down. Some rerun of The Office filled the room with background noise until I finally drifted off on the couch around 4:15. I don't know what time I woke up, maybe an hour later. At first, I thought I'd heard the radiator pop, but then came a sound that didn't fit, the soft scrape of something shifting across the floor. My eyes adjusted slowly. There was a shadow in the corner by the kitchen doorway. At first, I thought it was just the coat rack, but then it moved, subtle, like someone swaying on their feet, and then I saw the face, pale, grinning, teeth catching the faint TV glow. I froze. My brain refused to connect the dots. The outline was wrong, too tall, too thin. And the grin, God, it didn't move, didn't breathe, just stretched. Something inside me snapped into motion. I bolted up, barefoot, heart pounding, grabbed my phone, and ran straight out the front door into the snow. I didn't even think to grab a jacket. I pounded on my neighbor's door until I heard movement inside. When he opened up, I barely managed. "Someone's in my apartment." He pulled me inside, locked the door, called 911. When the police came, they searched the whole place. Both doors locked from the inside. Every window secure, except one in the kitchen. I must have forgotten to latch it after taking out the trash earlier that night, but there were no footprints in the snow outside. No forced entry, nothing missing. One officer suggested maybe I'd been dreaming, some kind of sleep paralysis or hypnagogic hallucination. But I knew I wasn't dreaming. I remembered the cold, the way the floor felt under my feet, the click of the front door when I ran, the grin, the way it stayed fixed, like it was waiting for me to notice it. The next day, I checked Instagram. Maya_R was gone, deleted, or renamed. Every photo, every comment, gone. Even the messages vanished like they'd never happened. I called out of work for a few days, said I had the flu. When I finally went back, I brought my mom's baseball bat and kept it behind the counter. And now, even years later, every time I close up at night, I check the locks twice. Because sometimes when the lights flicker and the front glass reflects my own tired face, I swear for a second, just a split second, I see that same grin behind me. Story 5. I never thought I'd end up working nights at a Dollar Tree in Millfield, North Carolina, a town small enough that everyone waved at each other, but big enough to have a Walmart 30 minutes down the highway. I used to think my life would be bigger than this. At 25, I'd imagined myself working in a design firm in Raleigh, maybe sipping oat milk lattes in some open-concept office with floor-to-ceiling windows. I went to school for graphic design, graduated in 2020, and thought I'd take off from there. But life has this cruel way of quietly rerouting you when you least expect it. When my dad passed away in a car accident 2 years ago, I moved back home to help my mom. She runs a small daycare out of the house, and after he died, things just fell apart. The bills stacked up, her arthritis got worse, and she couldn't keep up with the kids alone. So I came back. I told myself it would be temporary, that I'd find something better soon. That was a year ago. Now I work nights at the Dollar Tree on Maple Hollow Road, one of those half-empty plazas with a laundromat, a nail salon, and a vape shop that never seems open. The job wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. We closed at 9 p.m., and the rest of my shift was just stocking and cleaning until 1 a.m. I liked the quiet. Most nights it was just me and Brandon, the assistant manager. He was in his late 20s, kind of a slacker, always on his phone watching TikToks or texting his girlfriend. The Thursday night it happened, everything felt completely normal. It was late October, and we'd already started putting up the Christmas stuff even though Halloween candy still lined the front shelves. The air outside had that crisp, early winter bite, and the parking lot was mostly empty except for my old Corolla and Brandon's truck. I was restocking aisle 7, the seasonal aisle, when my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. Normally, I ignored personal messages during my shift, but this one was a notification from Instagram. It wasn't from anyone I knew. The username was Perfect Days, spelled with a Z at the end. No profile picture, no followers, just a DM request. The preview said, "Check this out." I should have ignored it. God, I wish I had. Out of boredom, or maybe curiosity, I opened it. The message contained a link to another Instagram profile. No caption, just the link. I hesitated, then tapped. It loaded into a grid of photos that, at first glance, didn't seem strange. Girls, all different. Some younger, some older. But as I scrolled, something clicked in the pit of my stomach. None of these pictures looked posed. They were taken from weird angles. Some through car windows, some from across parking lots, others behind fences or bushes. There was a teenage girl at a bus stop, another tying her shoes on a sidewalk, one in a grocery store aisle. Every photo looked like the subject didn't know they were being watched. The comments were what made my hands start shaking. They weren't normal comments, no emojis or text, just numbers. 200, 500, 1,000, and short messages like "good work" or "sent," all from blank accounts. No names, no profile pictures. I felt sick. I took a screenshot and sent it to my friend Sarah. She's one of the few people in Millfield I still hang out with. Me. "Dude, look at this. Just got a weird DM." Sarah, "Wow, what the hell? That's creepy." Me. "Right? Looks like stalker pics or something." Sarah, "Wait, hang on. That one, scroll down. Isn't that me?" My heart skipped. I scrolled down, and sure enough, the third row showed Sarah walking across the Millfield Library parking lot. She was holding a coffee, wearing the same hoodie she'd worn last week when we'd gone out for lunch. Me. "Holy shit! That is you, Sarah. Report that account." "Seriously?" Me. "Already did." "I'll block it too." I tried to shake it off. I had boxes to unpack and shelves to fill, but my hands were unsteady. The unease stayed. By 11:40 p.m., I finally took my break. Brandon was in the office pretending to do inventory, and I sat on the metal stool in the stockroom, scrolling my phone. That's when Sarah texted again. Sarah, "Wait, why is there a picture of you on here?" I froze, my pulse thudded in my ears. Me. "What?" Sarah, "Scroll to the bottom." I'm serious. I opened the link again. The page was still up. My thumb scrolled past all the photos of strangers, faster and faster, until I saw it. Bottom right corner. It was me. I was in my Dollar Tree vest, standing outside the store, fumbling with my keys. The photo was taken from across the parking lot, maybe from a car. My mouth went dry. My hands started shaking as I texted her back. Me. "That's from 2 nights ago." Sarah. "Mia. What the fuck? Who's taking these?" I couldn't breathe for a second. I remembered that night. I'd stayed late finishing aisle resets. The lot had been empty except for Brandon's truck. I thought I'd heard something, a soft click or shuffle, but I'd brushed it off as wind. Then I noticed another photo. Newer. It was me again, sitting behind the store, smoking near the dumpster. That was earlier tonight. The photo was close. Too close. From behind the fence. I stood up, my knees weak. The stockroom suddenly felt smaller, the hum of the lights unbearably loud. I called Sarah. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know," she said quickly. "You need to call the cops right now. Someone's watching you." "What if it's just some prank?" I said, even though I didn't believe it. A prank? Mia, that picture was from tonight. That's not a prank. Brandon stepped into the stockroom then, holding a clipboard. Hey, you good? I jumped. My phone nearly slipped out of my hand. Yeah, I just, not feeling great. Might head out early. He frowned. Everything okay? Family stuff, I lied. My mom's sick. All right, he said, already half distracted by his phone again. I clocked out fast, trying to keep my hand steady. The drive home felt like a blur. I kept checking my rearview mirror, convinced I saw headlights following me. But every time I turned onto another road, they disappeared. When I finally got home, I locked every door and sat in the dark living room, refreshing the page. Gone. The account was gone. Not just blocked, deleted. But my stomach twisted as I thought about those numbers again. 200, 500, 1,000. Prices. It wasn't random. It was a list. And I was on it. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured someone standing behind that fence again. The next day I called in sick. Then again the next night. Brandon texted asking if I was okay, and I just said, yeah, just tired. But that night, as I sat in my living room scrolling through my phone, a new DM appeared. This time, the username was different. Daylight Dreams. The message said, you shouldn't have deleted us. And attached was a new photo. It was my house, taken from across the street. The timestamp read 11:12 p.m., 5 minutes ago. I stood up, heart pounding, and peeked through my front window. Across the street, a dark sedan idled under the streetlight, engine running. I couldn't see the driver. My phone buzzed again. Another message. $2,000. That was it. I called 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, too calm, as I stammered through what was happening. A patrol car arrived 10 minutes later, lights flashing silently. By then, the sedan was gone. The officer, a young guy named Daniels, took my statement. He looked at the screenshots, frowned, and said, you did the right thing calling us. We'll file a report. But I could tell from his tone that he didn't expect much to come of it. Over the next week, I barely slept. The cops said they couldn't trace the account. The IPS were masked. Whoever ran it knew what they were doing. Then 3 nights later, Sarah called me crying. Someone had sent her a DM different username. The same words. You shouldn't have deleted us. And attached was a picture of her standing in her kitchen window. That was the night I packed a bag and left Millfield. I didn't even tell my mom where I was going, just that I needed to stay with a friend for a bit. I drove until sunrise, until the road signs started to blur together. That was 6 months ago. I've changed my phone number, deleted all my social media, and moved twice since then. But sometimes late at night, when I stop at a gas station or walk to my car alone, I feel it again. That weight, that prickling behind my neck. And sometimes, when I check my phone out of habit, I still think I'll see that notification pop up again. A DM from an account with no name, no profile picture. Just a message that says, check this out. Story 6. I never thought I'd end up working nights at a Dollar Tree in Hollow Creek, Oregon, a town so small it barely showed up on GPS unless you zoomed in 3 times. When I graduated from the University of Oregon with a degree in fine arts, I pictured myself sketching in a Portland studio, maybe living off commissions, surrounded by other artists who spoke in metaphors and lived off cold brew. Instead, I was restocking off-brand shampoo and sweeping tile floors that never looked clean no matter how many times you mopped them. The Dollar Tree sat at the edge of a rundown shopping strip, between an abandoned laundromat with boarded windows and a vape shop that glowed blue through the night. Behind it stretched a cracked parking lot that led into a thin patch of pine woods. If you didn't know better, you'd think the whole town had been left behind decades ago. I moved back here after my dad's stroke 2 years ago. My mom passed when I was 16, cancer, and my dad, Ed, had been a mechanic his whole life. The man who once rebuilt car engines by feel alone could barely hold a coffee mug now. So I came back to take care of him. The Dollar Tree job started as a stopgap, a temporary fix, I told myself. But like most temporary things in life, it stayed longer than it should have. I was 29, broke, tired, and hanging on to my art like a fading pulse. My drawings had changed too. In college, they were soft, portraits, landscapes, color. But after Mom's death, they turned darker, more surreal. Faces stretched into impossible shapes. Eyes multiplied, limbs blended into roots or machinery. I started posting online, and for reasons I still don't fully understand, people loved the darkness. They called it raw. I called it therapy. Then came him. It was a Thursday night, slow and quiet. The kind of quiet where the hum of the refrigerators feels loud enough to talk back. I was at the register, scrolling half awake through my phone, when the chime over the front door rang. He walked in slow, tall, with a presence that immediately set my nerves on edge. His clothes were black, not in a punk or gothic way, just blank. His skin looked pale, almost gray beneath the store's harsh lights. His hair was dark, a little messy, like he'd styled it to look natural. He didn't grab a basket, just drifted through the aisles with his hands clasped behind his back, studying shelves like he was inspecting art pieces. After a few minutes, he came to the counter and placed a single item down, a black sketchbook. "You draw?" he asked, his voice low, careful, like every word was measured. "Yeah," I said, scanning it. "Mostly darker stuff." He gave me a faint smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. "That's good." Most people are afraid of what comes out when they stop pretending. I gave a polite half smile, trying not to make eye contact. There was something too still about him. When I handed him his change, he looked straight at me and said, "You're better than you think you are." It threw me off. "Sorry?" "Your work," he said, "online. It's real." I froze. My Instagram was under my art name, a lark, not my real name. I hadn't posted a face photo in over a year. Before I could respond, he added softly, "Keep drawing. I'll be in touch." And then he walked out, leaving the sketchbook behind. That night I got a DM. The username was at eli.collects. No posts, no followers. Profile photo, a plain black square. "Nice meeting you today. I'd like to commission something. Name your price. No limits, no restrictions." For a second I thought it was a scam, but something about his tone, precise, deliberate, made me hesitate. I replied anyway. "Depends what kind of piece." His response came instantly. "Something that feels like hunger." I frowned. "Hunger? What kind of hunger?" "The kind that keeps you alive." The message sat there, heavy. Rent was due and commissions were rare, so I took it. $1,000, I typed, half joking. "Deal." A PayPal notification hit my phone less than a minute later. $1,000. No comment. I worked on it for 4 nights straight, long after my Dollar Tree shift ended. The final drawing was grotesque and sad. A figure with its ribs spread like wings, mouth stretched open to swallow something that wasn't there. I called it The Hollow. When I sent him the finished piece, he replied instantly, "Beautiful. Real beauty is cruel, isn't it?" After that, he messaged often, not just about art, about strange, obsessive things. He talked about forms that hold emotion, about how fear carves deeper than time. He said he worked with organic mediums. I didn't ask what that meant. Then one night, he sent me a photo, a disappearing Instagram image. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. It was a goat's head, submerged in murky fluid. Its eyes were replaced with dark stones, its lips carved into a permanent grin. Tiny symbols were etched along its jawline. I dropped my phone. "Is that real?" I typed. He replied instantly. "Found in a slaughterhouse. Reworked. Skulls or vessels. They hold what words can't." I didn't reply. I didn't sleep that night either. The next evening, I was on register duty again when I saw a shape move outside the glass doors. Tall, still, almost blending with the darkness of the lot. When the lights flickered from the storm outside, the shape seemed to shift. "Creepy night, huh?" My coworker Jenna said behind me, trying to make small talk. "Yeah," I muttered. But when I looked again, the shape was gone. A few nights later, another DM arrived. "You ever think about how art outlives us? I want to make something permanent." "What do you mean?" "Human skulls carry emotion best. I want one. Real. You could help me make it beautiful." I just stared at the screen. My stomach dropped. "No," I finally typed. "That's not art." He didn't reply. I deleted Instagram the same night. Days passed, then weeks. I tried to push it out of my head. But at work, I started noticing things like the same black car parked across the street near the vape shop. Every night, same spot, engine off. Sometimes I thought I saw a face inside, sometimes not. Jenna noticed my nerves one night. "You okay, Alex?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. "You sure?" "You've been jumpy lately. You keep looking at the door," I forced a laugh. "Just tired." "Been drawing too much," she smiled. "You and your creepy art." That Friday we closed late. Jenna left early, said her kid was sick, so I had to take the trash out alone. It was raining, steady and cold. The dumpster sat behind the store near the edge of the pine line. I pushed the bin out, muttering to myself. The alley lights buzzed overhead. As I lifted the trash lid, I froze. The black sketchbook, sitting right on top of the bags, dry, perfectly placed. My breath hitched. I didn't put it there. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. No answer. Just the rain tapping the metal. I looked toward the trees, and there, under the nearest light, stood a tall figure in black, still, watching. I dropped the trash lid and ran back inside, locking the door behind me. My hands were shaking too hard to hold my phone steady. I called 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm. "You said there's someone watching you from the parking lot?" "Yes, behind the store. He's been following me for days." "Stay inside." An officer's on the way. But when the cruiser pulled in 10 minutes later, the lot was empty. The officer, Sergeant Larkin, checked around, found nothing. He told me to get home safe, said it was probably a prank. But when I got to my apartment that night, my door was unlocked. Everything was where I left it, except for one thing, the sketchbook. It was on my kitchen table, open. On the first page, a drawing, my style but not my hand, a perfect portrait of me. Eyes blacked out. Below it, one line, "Skulls or vessels." I packed a bag that night and drove to my dad's place 2 towns over. I told myself it was temporary, just until I could figure things out. I never went back to that Dollar Tree. 2 weeks later, Hollow Creek police called. Someone had broken into the store after hours. No cash taken, no vandalism, just one thing missing. The employee locker in the back had been forced open. Mine. Inside, I'd left a self-portrait sketch I'd been working on before all this started. They never found the suspect. I moved again after that. New town, new number, new name on my art account. But sometimes, late at night, when I scroll through messages, I'll see a request sitting in my inbox. No followers, no posts. Profile picture, black square, and the message always reads the same. "We never finished your piece." Story 7. I never thought I'd end up working nights at a Dollar Tree in East Ridge, Texas. When I was in college, I pictured myself doing field research in Arizona, maybe hiking through canyons and taking water samples for environmental studies. But dreams are fragile things when bills start piling up. My dad passed away from a heart attack in 2018, and when that happened, Mom started falling behind on mortgage payments for the house. I was living in Austin at the time, barely keeping myself afloat on a customer service job that I hated. And when she called one night crying, saying she couldn't keep up anymore, I packed everything and came home. That was 3 years ago. East Ridge isn't the kind of place you move to. It's the kind of place you get stuck in. A faded strip mall, 1 gas station, 2 churches, a diner that never closes, and a Dollar Tree that somehow stays in business even though everyone claims they shop at Walmart in the next town. I told myself the Dollar Tree job would be temporary, just something to pay bills while I figured out my next step. But temporary stretched into years before I noticed. My manager, Lisa, was one of those people who looked permanently exhausted but still held everything together. She was in her 40s, divorced, always clutching a coffee cup that said, "World's okayest boss." Then there was Hector, our stock guy, mid-50s, built like a linebacker but always humming old country songs under his breath. And Tara, the other cashier, 19, bubbly, always recording TikToks on break, always in a new relationship that was somehow worse than the last one. I worked mostly evenings, 4 to close. But around November, when our night stalker quit, Lisa asked if I could start covering the overnight shifts twice a week. It wasn't great money, but Mom's insomnia had been getting worse, and she liked having me home during the day. So I said yes. At first, nights were dull, just me and the hum of the fluorescent lights, unloading boxes, straightening shelves, breaking down cardboard in the back. By 11 p.m., the parking lot outside was empty. Sometimes a semi-truck would roll by on the highway, its lights flashing across the glass doors, but otherwise it was silence. That silence became normal until the week before Thanksgiving. It was a Tuesday night, cold for Texas. Hector was in the back room unpacking Christmas decorations, muttering to himself about how it's not even Thanksgiving yet. I was wiping down the counter when the door chime went off. I looked up, expecting one of our regulars. But the woman who walked in wasn't from around here. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with long ash blonde hair that looked too perfect for a small-town store. Her clothes didn't fit the Dollar Tree aesthetic either. Cream sweater, dark jeans, boots that looked expensive. She didn't grab a basket, just wandered slowly through the aisles, touching things but never picking them up. I watched her on the monitor above the register. Seasonal aisle, then cleaning supplies, then cosmetics. It felt like she was waiting for something. When she finally came up to the counter, she placed a single bottle of lavender hand sanitizer down. "Quiet night?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Not much happens here after 10. She smiled faintly. "That's good." Safer that way, I forced a laugh. "Yeah, I guess so." She handed me a $100 bill. "I don't think I can break this," I said, apologetic. Her eyes met mine, cold gray eyes. "It's fine. Keep it." Before I could respond, she turned and walked out, leaving the sanitizer on the counter. When I told Hector, he just shrugged. Probably some city lady stopping through. Don't think too hard about it, but something about her bothered me. East Ridge didn't get people like that, especially not alone in the middle of the night. 2 nights later, she came back. She didn't buy anything this time, just walked the aisles again. I tried not to stare, but she kept glancing toward the cameras. Each time I checked the monitor, she was in a different aisle, like she didn't want to be seen in one place for too long. When she finally passed the counter, she paused. "You ever notice," she said softly, "how a place feels completely different after dark?" I hesitated. "Yeah, I guess so. Everything's quieter." Her faint smile returned. "Things notice you more at night." I frowned. "What things?" She didn't answer. She just turned and left. That night, the stockroom door, which I knew I'd closed, was wide open when I went to lock up. The next night, a display of cleaning products had been knocked over even though no one had come in for hours. And then there was the smell. It started faint, metallic, almost like blood, but stronger near the back of the store. Lisa thought it was a leak in the pipes. Hector said maybe it was mice. But the smell always seemed worse after the blonde woman came in. The night before Thanksgiving, she showed up again, 10 minutes before closing. Her movements were quicker this time, almost frantic. She filled a basket with random items, nail polish, batteries, duct tape, bleach. She didn't say anything until I handed her the receipt. "Don't be here alone on Friday night," she whispered. I blinked. "What?" She just gave that same small smile and walked out. I told Lisa the next morning, half joking that we had a psychic customer. She laughed it off, but by Friday the words were still in my head. Hector had called out that night, and Tara left at 10. It was just me from 10 p.m. to midnight. By 11:15, the store was silent except for the buzz of the lights. I was in the cleaning aisle when the front chime went off. I turned expecting the blonde woman, but it wasn't her. It was a man, tall, broad shoulders, black hoodie pulled over his head. He didn't look at me, didn't say anything, just walked straight down the aisles with quick, deliberate steps. Something about the way he moved made my stomach twist. I glanced at the monitors. He was in the paper goods aisle. Then he stopped, looked straight up at the camera, and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile you see in mugshots. I picked up the phone to call Lisa, but the screen flickered, then went to static. When it came back, the man was gone. The front door hadn't chimed again, which meant he was still inside. I tried to move, but my legs felt locked. Finally, I grabbed the metal flashlight from under the counter and started walking toward the back. Heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. The air felt thick, heavier with each step. That metallic smell was stronger now, sharp, nauseating. The stockroom door was closed, except something was sticking out from underneath it, a folded piece of paper. I crouched down, hands trembling, and pulled it out. On it, written in neat block letters, were two words: Friday midnight. I looked up. The door, which had been closed a second ago, was now cracked open. That smell hit me so hard I gagged. I turned to run, but then a voice came from the dark behind the door. Low, male, calm. "You stayed!" The flashlight slipped from my hand and hit the floor, rolling toward the stockroom. I didn't wait. I bolted, past the aisles, past the register, out into the cold air. The parking lot was empty. My keys fumbled in my shaking hands as I tried to unlock my car. When I looked back at the store, everything looked normal. The lights were still on. The door was still locked. But behind the glass, by the register, she was there. The blonde woman. She wasn't smiling this time. Her eyes were wide, fixed on something behind me. I turned. Nothing but the empty road stretching into the dark. When I looked back, she was gone. The next morning, Lisa called me. "Hey, did you have trouble with the cameras last night?" "They're all showing static after 11, I didn't answer. She sighed. "You okay?" "You sound weird." "I'm fine," I lied. I wasn't. I quit that day. Never even went to pick up my last paycheck. Mom didn't ask why, and I didn't tell her. I didn't want her to worry. But I still drive past that strip mall sometimes when I'm headed to Houston. The Dollar Tree's still there, same green letters glowing against the dark. I never look directly at it, because every time I do, I swear I see her, standing in the window, face pale under the fluorescent lights, waiting for someone else to stay past midnight. Story 8, I never thought I'd end up working the graveyard shift at a Dollar Tree in Willow Point, Kentucky. When I was younger, I used to picture my life unfolding differently. Teaching job, a little 2-bedroom house near a school playground, maybe a golden retriever that greeted me when I came home. But that was before my dad's accident, before everything started unraveling faster than I could fix it. Dad died in 2021, crushed under a tractor while helping a friend on their farm outside of Bowling Green. After the funeral, Mom stopped sleeping. Bills started stacking up, and my student loans didn't care that grief had set up camp in our lives. I had a degree in English, but degrees don't pay when schools are downsizing. So when the Dollar Tree off Highway 247 in Willow Point offered a full-time night position, I took it. The pay was nothing to brag about, but the work was predictable, quiet. That's what I wanted, quiet. The store sat at the edge of town, across from a closed-down bowling alley and a faded car wash. Most nights it was just me, our night manager Rick, and another restocker named Dana. We'd clock in at 10 p.m., restock shelves until dawn, and leave before the morning crowd rolled in. It was boring, sometimes peaceful, but after a while that silence got heavy, especially when the strange stuff started happening. The first time I noticed something was off, it was small, stupid even. It was around 3 a.m., our break time. I was sitting in the back stock room, eating from one of those little plastic cups of instant noodles and scrolling Instagram. Dana was talking about her son's obsession with bubble wands. "You ever see those big ones with LED lights?" she asked, exhaling smoke through the cracked back door. "He keeps breaking them, and I keep buying them." I laughed. "Those things sell out fast, and we get like 2 boxes a week." "Yeah, well, he's the reason they're out of stock," she said, chuckling. We talked for maybe 5 minutes, tops. Then I went home, showered, crashed on the couch, and opened Instagram again out of habit. The first ad that popped up was for LED bubble wands, same brand we carried in the store. It creeped me out a little, sure, but I shrugged it off. Everyone jokes their phones listen to them, except it kept happening. 2 nights later, Rick and I were unpacking boxes of seasonal stuff, cheap Easter decorations, fake grass, pastel plastic eggs. Rick picked up a rabbit figurine and muttered, "Man, this looks exactly like one my grandma used to have." She collected weird porcelain junk like this. We laughed about it, moved on. That weekend I was watching YouTube, and a video recommendation popped up. Vintage porcelain collectibles, the rise and fall of grandma decor. The thumbnail had the exact same rabbit figurine. I remember staring at the screen for a solid minute, my hand frozen on the remote. It was too specific to be a coincidence. The next week, Dana mentioned something weird on break. "Tell me if this happens to you," she said, leaning against the loading dock railing. "I told my husband we needed a new shower curtain. Didn't even Google it, just said it." Next morning, I opened Facebook, and boom, shower curtain ads everywhere. "I swear these phones are listening to us." "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "Same thing happened to me." She nodded slowly, flicking her cigarette. "Don't think too much about it or you'll go nuts." I tried not to. But that night, when I got home, I noticed something strange. My phone was on the coffee table, screen dim, but the little green camera light flashed for a split second when I picked it up. I didn't think I'd touched anything, but it was like something was already recording. Then a new audio file appeared in my downloads folder. I didn't download anything. When I played it, all I heard was static, then faint voices, my voice, and Rick's. "Man, this looks exactly like one my grandma used to have," he said. That's when I dropped the phone. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I confronted Rick. "You ever feel like your phone's recording you?" I asked, halfway pretending to joke. He looked at me over a box cutter, eyebrow raised. "Feel like it? Hell, it probably is. These companies track everything. Dollar Tree, too. Half of those handheld scanners got microphones built in." "Wait, seriously?" "Yeah, training said they're for inventory feedback, but I know a mic when I see one." He said it like it was no big deal, but something about his tone didn't sit right. That night I tested it. During our shift, I told Donna, loudly, that I was planning to buy an antique wall clock with a brass pendulum. I'd never owned one, never searched for one. I made up every detail. When I got home, Instagram showed me ads for antique wall clocks near Willow Point. That's when I started leaving my smartphone at home. I brought my old flip phone instead. No internet, no apps, just calls and texts. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, around 2 a.m., I was stocking cleaning supplies when the store's PA system crackled. That was weird. Rick never used it after hours. Then a voice came through. My voice. "Creeps me out how quiet this street is," it said, distorted but unmistakable. That was me talking to Dana 2 weeks earlier. I froze, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The lights above aisle 3 flickered, just once, and the intercom went silent. When I found Rick in the back, he didn't even look surprised. "You heard that, right?" I asked. He hesitated. "Yeah." "What was it?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Sometimes the system replays old recordings. They say it's a glitch. Recordings of us?" Rick didn't answer. The last night I worked there, everything fell apart. Rick called out sick. Dana had swapped shifts. It was just me. I kept my earbuds in, sweeping the aisles in silence, trying not to think. Around 4 a.m., I heard a faint hum from the stockroom, low and rhythmic, like static mixed with breathing. When I walked back there, every scanner gun on the charging dock was glowing red. Not their normal soft light, bright, almost pulsing. Then one of them beeped and the intercom clicked on again. "Don't think too much about it," my voice said. The same words Dana had told me. I bolted for the door, heart hammering. Outside, parked across the street, was a white van. No logos, no plates. Its engine was idling. I hurried to my car, hands shaking so bad I dropped my keys. When I finally looked up, the van door was open. A figure was standing halfway out, wearing one of those cracked plastic Halloween masks we'd unpacked last month. I don't remember getting home. I remember driving, crying, hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles bled. I quit the next morning. No 2 weeks notice, no explanation. I threw out my smartphone, wrapped my flip phone in aluminum foil, and stopped using Wi-Fi at home. I even unplugged my TV. But sometimes when the house is quiet and I'm about to fall asleep, I hear a faint hum, like the scanners from the store. And last week, my old phone, one I swear I'd buried in the trash, was sitting on my kitchen table when I woke up. Its screen was on. A new file waited in voice memos. When I played it, it was my voice. Only this time. It said something I'd never said before. "They're still listening, Ben." And the file ended with a soft click, like someone hanging up a call.